me, that's just common sense. And the rest of the world does kind of chuckle at us that we have this huge divide over how much we want to take care of everybody.
But
and it's embarrassing to
yeah. I mean, generally speaking, is people are left to die because they can't work, and they're not. The world is not made accessible to them. Political institutions are not made accessible to them. Access to fundamental resources is a very steep hill to climb because they can't justify their existence by being able to work as much as they're demanded to. And I think
so. How do you want to pick up the downtrodden and set them straight?
Well, I think there's this goes even beyond just like helping the needy, but questioning like the very fundamental idea that work gives you a right to live. Like, why don't we just have a right to live? Why, and also like who?
Well, you
like,
do.
Who is the work for?
I like that. I agree with that. I think, to jump into a specific example of this, there was a concept of professionalism that gets called in, where people at tech companies are like doing anonymous spreadsheets where they're sharing their salaries and things like that, and that gets criticized as, oh, that's not professional to do that. And the question that actually the ex-Antifa person that we interviewed is a friend of mine, and him and I have long conversations about this, where it's like, professionalism just serves the company. It doesn't
class.
serve the worker.
Yeah.
You go to HR, and HR is not there to help you. HR is there to help the company.
They're replacing the unions.
Yeah,
they're
right.
trying to figure out how to give you as little as possible so you don't mutiny and like take over the company.
Yeah, exactly. To placate and then serve the company and things like that. And I think calling things like that into question is really important on a baseline philosophical level.
Because it calls into question why do we really work? People 50, 60 years ago, John Maynard Keynes, who's like the one of the most influential economists in the world, a British economist, in the 50s or 60s was writing things about like, oh shit, like there aren't going to be any more jobs in like a few years because like we're going to have technology do everything for us and we're going to have like too much downtime. And people were genuinely worried about like this problem that society, that like capitalism had done such a great job of creating all this wealth and all these new technologies that were actually giving us the opportunity to live or to outsource much of what we do for work to automation, to technology and robots and stuff. And so we would have time to just like hang out with our friends and flourish and do art and play music and stuff, and we still found ways to end up working even more and be. It's
because we rebuild everything now. Now we just tear everything down and rebuild
everything now, and also, if the point of industry was to free people and to allow them to like live the lives they want to live, then we wouldn't have to work as much as we do right now. But that's not the point of industry. The point of industry is to make a profit. So that when a new technology is made, all that means is not that your worker can work less, but that your worker can produce more if you just demand the same amount of time out of him.
Yeah, or just inevitably be replaced. I mean, we've talked about Uber on here a lot, and it's literally just like people saying, how can we get a few more pennies out of that driver until we can just eventually replace them with a robot?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and I guess to their credit or whatever, they have created a lot of jobs, but they're so temporary, they're so fleeting.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them jobs.
or contracts or whatever it is.
Right, there's a reason why there's a taxi cab like union and those guys all
Sure. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm going to say in defense of Uber in the history of the podcast. I think, hopefully, But and then all sorts of those
that's
things,
the thing.
long range trucking.
I'm sorry. I just recently got into corporate America, and I work for a corporation now. And I know. Well, you got to do what you got to do to make it.
There's no ethical living under capitalism.
No.
We work in the same company.
Yeah.
We're in
I gotta cover this up. So.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna name the company.
Don't name it.
I will not. I can't even read that. My eyes are so shut.
Anyway.
Glad
okay.
capitalism did that to your eyes, so you can't see this.
So you're
But I see,
working in your benefit right now.
Exactly what you guys are saying with HR and how all that it all does boil down to watching that machine work and it being just the corporation is the machine and we're all just moving parts and it's all for the goal of a very few people, and that's true. Oh no. Damn it.
You had a butt.
I did. I had,
All right,
I had
so hold that
something
thought. Yeah. I guess the one question is you mentioned music and art and flourishing and things like that. I do. Some part of me does believe that if we don't have something to do or believe in or have purpose, and I'm not saying a job. I'm purposely not saying a job, but something to do with your brain that does decay. And I'm not, this is not a defensive labor. This is not at all that. And I just want to know what your thoughts are on what would replace that. Whereas in the world now, it's you have a job and that's what keeps you alive, basically, in that sense. But
So have you seen WALL-E?
women.
I don't want that. I don't want that.
And you're women.
I don't want WALL-E. I don't
So-
want the WALL-E spaceship. I'm not going there.
So I'd flip that.
Please believe me.
I think what we have now prevents people from flourishing, from doing the things they want to do and living the lives they want to live. So I don't know what there is to replace. I see only something to.
Well,
to
Uber's
add.
the only job I know where you can just work your own hours.
I work my own hours.
Some people do that.
That's
Yeah.
the only thing.
Yeah.
But like, are you saying like what would we have? Like we wouldn't be working anymore.
Don't you think that
we wouldn't be working for someone
millions
else?
of Americans
The
need
ghost has raised her hand. Should we introduce you?
I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna keep that. But the way that I like to look at it,
Yes.
so I'm wanting to study education, and I think of it in terms of like if you frame work as something for us to do with our lives to keep us alive, and it's like it's a choice and we're happy about it and it helps drive us forward. It just gives us purpose. I don't see it that way because I see the decision about what work is worth, what work gives your life worth has already been decided for us. And I think about that in terms of like, I don't know how old y'all's kids are, but there's this huge STEM push in education now. And it's because someone decided that STEM was going to be where all of the jobs of the future were. So if the education system is in place in order to make good workers, which I believe based on a lot of things that it is, then how do we make the workers of the future? We push them into STEM and we devalue other, like the humanities, we devalue art, we devalue all of those different things, so those jobs aren't worthy anymore. Or those jobs are worthy, but so long as they have a technological bent, like if you're a graphic designer as opposed to just an artist,
yeah.
or if you're like music classes, but you're doing music with the computer and you can program and stuff like that. So
And they shoehorned that A in there, didn't they? It's STEAM.
okay, don't even get me started on STEAM.
I hope you see the sarcasm on my face. I hope you can
Yeah,
see the
absolutely.
both of our kids right now
A's
are in
art.
Waldorf schools
Art?
together.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
art?
They just make it sound better.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, and then S is to add the social
By art, they
back
made
in
like
there.
graphic design for their spreadsheets or their prospectuses.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but you're saying you're not going to be a classical guitarist. You're going to be a producer or something like that, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Then and that's. I feel like that. This gets into the difficult thing where like everybody thinks they're the good guy. So everybody that comes from this place of like, well, that's where the jobs are going to be. So we really need to push kids there. But I agree with you that they're losing the essence of art and.
Or that isn't being nurtured as much. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I have theories as to why, because, like, if you have people like historians, I'm a big push for people should be historians, or like we need people who are documenting things, and documentation can come from art and music and all of these different things, where you're really able to analyze the social climate and then put it in a way that people can understand and feel. So like if you don't have those things, then people aren't questioning.
That
what's
should be an
going
app on your phone, by the way.
What?
what you just said. I'm just go,
No, yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, like if you don't have historians, if you don't have people who are looking at the past and like trying to see or analyzing what's going on now through the lens of what's happening in the past, then everything that's going on now just seems like an anomaly. Like, how did we get here? Oh my gosh, Trump is like, this has never happened before. This is unprecedented.
Like this,
And then you have a whole
Black
bunch
people
of
are like, what'd you
why don't you
miss?
look at every country in Europe and you'll see, yeah.
Or like America, like
Yeah.
we still have territory, like we still have colonies, like the imperialist America is America, like nothing is new.